It's Fan Wednesday. You pick the topic, I discuss it. Let's go.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. I am Alex Clancy. We are doing Fan Wednesday, stupid. It's a stupid, non-alliterative title, but I was sick last Friday, so this is where we are. We're doing Crossover Thursday with Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker of Locked On 49ers, my boys. Really excited to connect with them and tomorrow, and then we'll do a deep dive into the 49ers game on Friday as well. But I wanted to do this for you. I wanted to follow through on this, and there's been a bunch of people who GM me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Please feel free to do so. I don't ask you to do that for follows. I just, if you have questions, if there's a topic you want discussed, please reach out to me. So I picked three, and I'll be discussing them today. Very interesting topics. Two connected, one forward pacing. Really excited to discuss that. And as we kind of move on here into week 15, appreciate football. If you haven't been listening to me, I've said it since week 1. I said it before when the preseason started. You screwed the pooch at this point. You didn't appreciate the sandwich meat portion of the sandwich that is the NFL season, week 5 to week 13 or so. Now people are appreciating because it's playoff push, blah, blah, blah. For those that did the work, I commend you. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, 3 topics. Do the Cardinals have more direction now than ever in history? Was Jonathan Gannon the right hire? And what are some targets for the Cardinals with the Houston Texans pick, which is now sitting at 15 as I'm recording this podcast? What are some targets for the Cardinals as, for their second first-round pick in 2024? And there are some stipulations, some, circumstantial, choices that need to be made with the first pick before really honing in on who they should take at 15, but I'll discuss it. I'm super excited to do all 3. So first, I got a DM from Michael at Mikey Diney, MikeydInie on Twitter. I'm going to read the message to you. Hey man, great pods recently. Thank you. I'm sticking with the idea that this is the first time, and honestly, since the Cardinals came to AZ, that there is ... direction. From the Warner to the Palmer eras, it seems they accidentally stumbled on gold and were trying to fit pieces together to see what sticks. There was no plan for the future. It was win now. With Monty, I'm seeing direction. Quote, hey, I know we've sucked at drafting, so I'll be good at this, and we're not going to sign anyone this year, but instead save money and surround guys around Kyler. I think it'd be an interesting topic to hear this week. Let me know your thoughts. I agree, Mikey. Is this potentially, and I'll put potentially there because it's an absolute for an organization that's been around since its inception, since, the 50s. Since moving to Arizona decades ago. Is this the most direction this organization has had? I'll qualify it as this. Is there more potential for future success now than ever before? 80% yes. Yin yang with one of them being full and the other one with a little, whale's eye or whatever it is of the opposite. Yeah, and let me explain. Okay, do the Cardinals have more direction? Maybe. Are they set up for future success better than ever in the past? Maybe plus. Let's take out You can take out a large chunk. Let's take Larry Fitzgerald's career. All you need to know about the direction and position for future success, look at all of the quarterbacks who threw him touchdown passes. That's all you need to know. Don't have to have a conversation besides that. This team was not in a position to win. Sure, you have the Carson Palmer years, you have the Kurt Warner years. And as Mikey mentioned, it was a stopgap that happened to work. Carson Palmer was going to retire. Kurt Warner was a turnover machine in New York. He came here and took him to the Super Bowl. So all you need to see is the quarterback list for who threw Larry Fitzgerald touchdowns. Max Hall, Drew Stanton, Kevin Cobb. Please. This team wasn't serious. This team had no actual possibility of winning. So when you look for direction, that has an insinuation that winning is coming. And this organization has never really been a winning organization. You've got your 3 10-plus win years with BA. They got to an NFC Championship game. It almost would have been better if they didn't. Made a Super Bowl against Pittsburgh. Probably should have won that. And let's be honest here. If we're talking about this, just let's be honest. The reason why they won that lost that Super Bowl was because Kurt Warner threw a pick six to end at halftime instead of throwing the ball away. That's why they lost, not Santonio Holmes. Anyways, do the Cardinals have more direction? They have more opportunity to succeed in these ways. One, they've stacked draft capital for 2024. They have 6 in the top 100. The draft class in 2023 was above average. Let's just put that at the floor. Not even grading on the Steve Keim curve. They was above average for future pacing. Okay, that's all we can take it as. It's only been 13 weeks, 14 weeks. Kyler Murray is homegrown, the best quarterback in the history of this organization. Maybe Neil Lomax, if you want to go back to that era, fine. That should show enough. They're in a position to have a clear, positive direction for the future. Adding young talent to the draft, they're going to have a boatload of money. And then I think, I said this yesterday, I think the salary cap, the reports is going to be $240 million. They're going to have money to spend. So if Kyler Murray's the guy, which I still think he is, and they, I think, still think he is, with that bevy of draft picks, I mean, look, you can trade back from 2 if you want to, if they end up 2. There's going to be a lot of teams that are going to want to move up to 2. You can get more picks this year, more first-round picks next year, and snowball it down the list. And if Kyler Murray's not the guy, I don't care what your friends tell you who don't like Kyler Murray. You can get 2 first-round picks for Kyler Murray. I don't understand why people don't think that's the case. Look at how much bad quarterback play there is. So, answering simply, Monty Ossenfort plus Jonathan Gannon plus Drew Petzing plus Nick Rallis, through the sample size that we've seen so far, seem to be the most stable GM/coaching staff that this Arizona Cardinals team has seen. I'll leave it as a ... instead of just a period. Steve Keim was not. Cliff Kingsbury was not. Anybody that will hire Cliff Kingsbury as head coach is not. So do the Cardinals have more direction now than they ever have in team history, Michael? Maybe. Maybe plus. And that's a lot better than saying absolutely not, because the restrictor plate of Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury would still be here. It's not that. So it's got to be a much more positive trajectory looking towards the future, because they've set themselves up to succeed. And very rarely in the history of this organization has that been the case. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button. Is Jonathan Gannon the guy? Was he the right choice? I'll discuss that next as we roll on here on Fan Wednesday. I'm sorry I wasn't here Friday. I'm sorry you have to deal with the terrible naming of this because the alliteration is gone. I hope you can forgive me. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel. As weather gets colder in other states besides Arizona, am I right? The NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. This app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. I will give my co-host of Locked On NFL Thursday, Tyler Rowland, a shout-out. We had a conversation about Dak Prescott and his MVP possibilities 2 weeks ago. He was sitting at plus 600 on FanDuel. Tyler said, go get on that right away. And now Dak is at plus 150. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. I'm your host, Alex Clancy. Thanks for hanging out. Truly. Thank you. I love this. You make this, and I love this. So I love you. Transitive property of congruence. I failed geometry, but I got it now because we're using people and not proofs. Trademark. What the hell am I talking about? So, number 2, Michael, thank you for reaching out. That was a great subject topic. Great segment topic. Yikes. Richard Ravel at RREVEL DM me. Hello, Mr. Clancy. Very polite of you. Why do you think Jonathan Gannon was the right hire for the Arizona Cardinals? Or do you think that Lou would have been a better hire? And I'm assuming he means Lou Anarumo, a defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. Do I think Jonathan Gannon was the right hire for the Cardinals? Resounding yes. It doesn't, and first of all, thank you, Richard, very much for reaching out, DMing me on Twitter. If you have questions you want topics discussed, please DM me at Clancy's Corner. This is my thought on Jonathan Gannon. And I'll group in Monty Osborne with this too. But more so Jonathan Gannon. This is going to sound very after school specially, but just bear with me. Don't bear with me. This is what I want to say. It doesn't matter if Jonathan Gannon was the right hire overall. He was the right hire for the Arizona Cardinals. The more you know. NBC. Star. Jonathan Gannon has the perfect demeanor, personality, dog in him, and love for football that will make him a great head coach. I don't care what Philadelphia Eagles fans or pundits think. Oh, he was the reason they lost the Super Bowl. Oh, he did about. Look at that defense now. I don't care if they have injuries. Look at that defense without Jonathan Gannon. All you really need to know. What Jonathan Gannon has done for this team through, handful of months, not even a calendar year yet, he's reinstilled faith into the head coach position. And listen, what Bruce Arians did for not only the Arizona Cardinals, but for the city of Phoenix with his Casa Foundation, and I've been lucky enough to be in studio with him a couple times, one of the greatest human beings on the planet. One of the greatest. No joke. Incredibly nice guy. For those that were wondering, well, is BA like that? Is he as advertised? Dictionary. He is exactly who he is every second of every day. Now, with that, there wasn't as much stability on this roster every down. There was a lot of no risk it, no biscuit, which is fine. We saw that with Cliff Kingsbury also in a much more high schooly, rudimentary approach where he didn't really know what he was doing. Bruce Arians is one of the best offensive minds this league has ever seen. One of the best offensive minds. But, and what you see with Jonathan Gannon is more of a metronome approach. safe, simple, but doggish. He got crap for the you drive a bus to school or a car thing. He's a weirdo. He's eccentric. Who cares? Who cares? As long as the players buy in and as long as they show up like they've shown up through 13 weeks and 14, obviously, with their bye, who cares about anything else? Jonathan Gannon was 100% the right hire. And I will, what's the opposite of Flowers? What's the opposite? I will call myself out here. I did this last week also. I thought Shane Steichen would have been the right choice. I thought Jonathan Gannon had many more weapons to use on defense, which made him look better than Shane Steichen, even though they had a lot of offensive weapons too. Shane Steichen was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, sorry. And Gannon was obviously the defensive coordinator. But I was wrong. And when prefacing this, Jonathan Gannon was the right hire for the Arizona Cardinals. Shane Steichen may be the best head coach of the two. DeMeco Ryans will always be the apple of my eye, and what he's doing in Houston is fantastic. DeMeco Ryans, I said 2 years before, he should be the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals next. Look like a head coach, whatever. Jonathan Gannon came in week 1 of the preseason. You look on the sidelines, you're like, oh, head coach. You can just tell. And it's not like he's an actor. It's natural. It's like the opposite of what I say about first-round picks who aren't ready. You're like, oh, no. It's the opposite of that. He was ready. It's what he's wanted to do forever. He went to high school with a couple guys that I was freshman dorm at St. Ignatius. Shout out Mark and Brian. He got hurt. I think he got hurt in college. He was like, that's it. And then he goes to scouting, coaching. He's been a football junkie forever. He is the perfect person, demeanor, acumen, intelligence, leadership to be a head coach in the NFL. And all the Cardinals have needed forever is stability. And he has that in spades. Is it going to work out? Are they going to win Super Bowls? Are they going to win a playoff game in the next couple of years? I don't know. All you can gauge any of this is with the data that we've seen so far. And this excuse, quote unquote, a reason, will expire at some point. But right now, that's all we've got. And it's awesome. It's existential. We're learning on the fly about who these guys are. And it's great. I've said the Cardinals should map their growth on the Detroit Lions. After they traded for Jared Goff, it's a little different with the quarterbacks, obviously. But what Dan Campbell did was take an incredibly eccentric introductory press conference where he's biting people's kneecaps and pivoted it into what they are now. One of the most fun teams in football to watch. One of the more feared teams in the NFC to watch. And that is what the Cardinals will be mapping themselves towards. Not the Chiefs, not the Eagles, nobody else. The Lions, in my opinion. Doldrums of mediocrity and losing to one of the most fun teams in football. And I think the Cardinals are on that trajectory if they can just knock out another draft and a free agency. Like they're not that far away. And with Jonathan Gannon leading the charge, I think the Cardinals are in very good hands. What's the ceiling? No idea. But circling back, and I may have, for everydayers, you know this, but if this is your first listen to Locked On Cardinals, thank you, first off. Secondarily, there are 3 different ways you can look at a top-tier first-round pick, and this will make sense, I promise. Say they get picked in the top 10. Say Paris Johnson Jr., okay? He's got some work to do. He's a rookie. He's rusty. But you're seeing good things. 2, he's an all-pro. Oh, that was the right pick, which it doesn't mean that it has to happen right away for that to be the case, but sometimes you just see it. Tristan Wirfs, perfect example. He was blocking for Tom Brady, but still, it doesn't matter. And then number 3, oh no, what have we done? Which doesn't happen incredibly often, but it happens. And you're looking at guys like wide receivers a lot, like, John Ross and Jalen Reagor and guys like that, where it's like, oh no, what have we done? Kevin White. You have that with coaches too. You don't have it with Jonathan Gannon. So is Jonathan Gannon the right choice? He was the right choice for the Arizona Cardinals, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Richard, thank you for your question. We have one more draft-centric. This is going to be fun. Next, as we roll on here, Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks. Super easy, super fun. PrizePicks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my cheese this football season. All you do is select 2 or more players, pick more or less in their projected stats, and place your entry. With basketball season here, you can pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League. So, for example, you can pick LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made and receptions. It's badass. Want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. Download and go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Alex Clancy here. It's Fan Wednesday. I apologize for the lack of alliteration, but it's still going to ring true. I'd like to do this once a week moving forward, especially for the end of the year, because listen, there's only so many things you can talk about with a team that's 3-10. Trust me, I've got plenty. But please send me a DM on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. I want to talk about topics, whether it's current, for the future, whatever it may be. Reach out. I'd love to have these conversations. Do the Cardinals have the most direction for the future in team history? Michael asked me that. I thought it was a great question. And I think maybe plus, but the restrictor plate is off now that Steve Keim is gone. They've got draft capital. They're going to have cap space. They probably have their quarterback for the future. There's very few teams that can say all 3 of those things at the same time. So that would lead me to think that their direction is clear, concise, and in a winning trajectory, unlike what it's been pretty much in the majority of this team's inception. Richard asked me, was Jonathan Gannon the right choice? I think so. He's the right choice for the Cardinals. Stability. That's what the Cardinals have severely lacked. And he brings that. Has it been perfect? Absolutely not. He's a first-year head coach with first-time coordinators, with a quarterback who was out the majority of the season, and a bunch of guys who are practice squad players on other squads. And it's part of the growth, and a bunch of rookies. It's part of the growth. It's part of it. Jonathan Gannon has done an exemplary job in his first year as head coach, in my opinion. So yes, Gannon was the right guy for the Cardinals, and that's really all that matters. Now, third, Ben at Kyler_IS on Twitter asked me if the Cardinals should take it 15 with the Texans pick. Now, obviously, this is fluid. The message was, the Texans are picking at 15 as we speak, Ben. Very well crafted with the draft order right now. Who should some targets be for the Cardinals? And this is fascinating. So let me try and mash this into 6 minutes, okay? First, there are some circumstantial things that may or may not happen which would qualify this differently. So say the Cardinals pick second. Say the Patriots they win a game, the Cardinals don't win another game the rest of the year, and they pick second. And they want to trade back for a king's ransom. It'll kind of make this all fluctuate. But say the Cardinals pick at 3. Okay, say they pick at 3. Say there's no trade back, and this is just flat out mock draft season. They pick 3, and they take Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think they should. I know that he could potentially be the best player in the draft. I know you don't draft for need that high. And I also know the Cardinals wide receiver is like the last thing the Cardinals need right now, even though they need everything. But say they draft Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3, okay? That wouldn't be the worst thing. I'm not doing this to be, just counter programming at all. I truly don't think that's the right choice. But say they take him. At 15, there's a couple different options, position-wise. Offensive tackle, it's a big tackle draft. Interior defensive line, it's a big interior defensive line draft. And it is not that deep at corner. So first for me, and the only thing that I have a hard time wrapping my head around is that Kool-Aid McKinstry would be there at 15 or 16 or 14 or 17, wherever the Cardinals pick, which should be around there unless the Texans go on a tear. Hopefully CJ Stroud is healthy. You never want to see anybody get hurt, let alone a quarterback, let alone a young quarterback who's had a rookie year that he has. You don't want to win that way. You don't want to get a higher draft pick that way. So say they pick 15 just for the sake of the argument. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry is the guy. The top corner off the board. I think that's the play. Now, if he's gone, there are some other options here. Interior defensive lineman Leonard Taylor from Miami is an absolute beast. Okay? He's a beast. And you can look at, there are a couple other tackles that could be there. There's an edge rusher, Dallas Turner from Alabama. Edge rushers in Dallas are edge rushers in Alabama are synonymous with each other in production. Look at Will Anderson, what he's done this season. Amarius Mims from Georgia at tackle. He's 6'7", 340. And we know the Cardinals need help on the interior of the offensive line. So do you take a tackle? I'm sorry. They need help on the outside. So say they have an issue and they draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe it's not an issue, but you still need tackle help, especially to supplant DJ Humphries on the left side. It's something to look at there. Okay. But for me, this is what I would hope the Cardinals do. So say they drafted 3 and there's a trade back, because there are going to be teams that will offer a first-round pick to move up for Marvin Harrison Jr. So say the Cardinals, for some reason, don't draft a corner or don't draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Say they don't have that spot, or say, say they have the second pick and they trade back. Say they don't draft a wide receiver with their first pick. This is where what I would love for them to do. If it's not Kool-Aid McKinstry, there are a couple wide receivers. They're going to be there. They're absolute studs. Okay. Keon Coleman out of Florida State, 6'3", 215. And a guy that may go much higher. He's mocked on his Pro Football Focus mock draft to go 11. Is Rome Odunze from Washington, an absolute monster. Like, Washington has, and you'll see this during the college football playoff, they've just got studs on the outside. Troy Franklin from Oregon is a beast. Like, there's so many good wide receivers coming out. And it's like, this is why I struggle with Marvin Harrison Jr. He's on paper going to be all world. And that's fine. And I get that. But what if he's an A or A plus, and you can get a B plus / A minus 15 picks later? What's the gap? And what if you can get your all-world left tackle for the next 15 years or 10 years instead of drafting Marvin Harrison Jr.? That's where I struggle. So, Ben, the targets for the mid-first round, regardless of who the Cardinals take at 3, if Kool-Aid McKinstry is there and you can get your CB1 or CB1A to Garrett Williams for the future, and you've got 2 young corners to play on the outside, that would be great. Now, having said that, they're going into the draft again in 2024, like 2023, where if it ain't a running back in the first round and it's not a quarterback in the first round and probably not a safety in the first round, you win. They need everything. Everything. But for me, Kool-Aid in an Arizona Cardinals uniform on Sundays would be massive for them as they pivot towards building roster with young talent from the draft and veterans that they'll bring in with all the money that they have in the 2024 offseason. Oh, boy. I'm getting so excited. That was Fan Wednesday. Come on. I'm sorry. I can't do it. I won't do it again. Thank you to everybody who reached out. DM me. Maybe we'll make the cut next time. Please DM me at Clancy's Corner. Let's do this again next week. Alex Clancy, Locked on Cardinals. Crossover Thursday with Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker from Locked on 49ers tomorrow. I'll talk to you then.